What's up? Here we go with another Free Advice Friday. Looking forward to hanging out. Looking forward to answering some of your voiceover questions, dispensing some advice freely on a Friday, as it were. I can tell you right now, this Free Advice Friday is going to be a little shorter than other Free Advice Fridays. I have a very important mission for my wife that I have to go out and accomplish this afternoon. So I'm just going to stick around. I'll probably stick around for about half an hour or so and answer your voiceover questions. So if there are things that you want to know, if there are things that you want to talk about, if there are questions that you would like to get answered, this is your opportunity to ask away. And I am happy to answer voiceover questions for you. So I will keep my eye on the chat. And as I see questions pop up, I will certainly do my best to answer all of your voiceover questions. So tell me what you want to talk about today. I do have to say, by the way, before we dive into questions here, if you have not listened to the new episode of the podcast, I think that you should listen to the new episode of the podcast. This is going to be the final interview in my online casting series. It came out yesterday, and it is with Miles Chacoin of Voquent. And it was a really great interview. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know anything about Voquent other than I knew the site existed. That was literally the extent of my knowledge on Voquent. And so having the opportunity to sit down with Miles, having the opportunity to ask some questions, get a better understanding of the site and how it works, but also getting a better understanding of Miles himself and what he brings to the table. Very clearly a smart business guy, very clearly an entrepreneur at heart, but as you'll find out in the interview, there's also a very personal connection to the creative arts. And so having a guy running a online voiceover platform who is a brilliant business guy, but also has a strong personal connection to the creative arts, I mean, that's a great combination. And so I learned a ton about the site. I learned a lot about how it works. I definitely want to get a profile set up on Voquent, and I think that you're all going to want to get a profile set up on Voquent after you listen to that interview as well. So I just threw that one in the chat. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, I would strongly encourage you to go back and give that interview a listen. Episode 179 of the podcast, an interview with Miles Chacoin of Voquent. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump into questions, shall we? This is Free Advice Friday. This is your opportunity to ask questions about your voiceover business and get those questions answered for free on a Friday. So if there's anything I can help you with, by all means, please type it in the comments and let's have a conversation. Play the voice. Real Kids VO family just started with Fidalgo after hearing your podcast with Armin. Is there much of a difference in the kind of projects there compared to, say, Voice 123? Great question. I think my understanding, and let me just clarify, I do not have a paid membership on any of these casting sites. So I will relay information as accurately as I can based on that knowledge. So first and foremost, the biggest difference with Fidalgo, it is European based. So you will find that a lot of the projects that are being posted on Fidalgo are European based. That's not to say that there's not North American companies. Of course there is, but there is a lot of European based stuff. Particularly Germany, which is where Fidalgo is from. So that's one thing you're going to notice. That being said, another concern is always with rates. I have found the rates consistently to be pretty fair on Fidalgo. Armin is very good about vetting jobs and vetting rates. And so whereas on Voice 123, you will see the range from $0 all the way up, you will not see that on Fidalgo. There will always be a minimum rate, and it is generally a fair minimum rate. The other thing that you'll want to take into consideration on Fidalgo is often the rates are in euros, which obviously you want to make sure that you know how the currency converts. Converting euros to Canadian dollars, for example, there's a big bonus there. So knowing a little bit of the basics of understanding the foreign exchanges on those currencies can make a difference. The other thing that I have understood from just talking to different voice actors about the different platforms is that on Fidalgo, it tends to be more on the non-broadcast side. So corporate narrations, explainers, e-learnings, more industrial type projects, as opposed to larger budget commercials, for example. But still great projects. So definitely a site. At the very least, it's in your best interest to have a free profile in Fidalgo. You won't be able to audition for projects, but you could get invited to projects directly. And obviously, having yourself out there on one more platform on the internet, having your demos playable in one more place on the internet, it just gives people one more place where they can find you. And so that's kind of my basic rundown of a Fidalgo to Voice 123 comparison. I would say the other big difference would definitely be in the number of jobs. You're going to see more audition opportunities posted on Voice 123 on a daily basis than you're going to see on Fidalgo. But again, Fidalgo focusing on quality, not necessarily or not exclusively on quantity. So hopefully that answers your question. It was a great interview with Armin. For those of you that haven't had a chance to check out the online casting series, I did have the opportunity to speak with Armin from Fidalgo, with Liz from Cast Voices, with Rolf from Voice 123, and then this week, Miles from Voquin. All right, let's see. Where are we going? Again, this is Free Advice Friday. If you've got a voiceover question that you would like to get answered, by all means, type it in the comments. And I am keeping an eye on that comment stream, and I will do my best to answer your questions. Again, I can only stick around until about 1:30 this afternoon, but I'll answer as many questions as possible. Tom says, hey, Mark, loving the casting site series. Thank you very much for that. AJB, should I be looking for auditioning for a gig if I do not have a perfect demo? Look, you can always be on the lookout for opportunities to audition. What you have to remember is if your demo is how you are going to try to find those auditions, then I do think that there's an element of truth to the saying that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So a couple of things to take into consideration. Can you take a less than perfect demo, put it on an online casting site, set up your profile, and have the opportunity to audition for work? Yes and no. Some platforms will allow you no matter what. There's no vetting process whatsoever. Other platforms will not allow you, and there is a vetting process. So Fidalgo, for example, vets everyone who signs up. And if your demo's not great, you're probably not going to get accepted onto the site. VO Planet is another one that I believe that vets talent. And so if your demo's not great, you may not get accepted onto the site. On the flip side of that, Voice 123 will accept anybody with a credit card. So in theory, could you go to Voice 123, set up a profile, and start auditioning right away? Yes, absolutely you could. And does it matter whether or not your demo is great? I mean, it might impact you to some degree, but you're also going to still have the opportunity to audition. So if your auditioning skills are great, then it might offset a less than perfect demo. My concern would be, why is the demo less than perfect? And is that a production issue? Is that a coaching issue? Is that a performance issue? Is that, the demo was done a couple of years ago and I've gotten better since, and so the demo just needs to be updated. So there's a little bit more that I would want to explore in that regard to be able to give you a completely perfect answer, but not a perfect answer. Who am I kidding? I don't have perfect answers, but a better answer. But on the demo front, just remember, for most of us, our businesses live and die by our demos. And you are competing with some of the best voice actors in the world on any given day. Voice actors who do have legitimate, professionally produced demos produced by J. Michael Collins or Anne Ganguza or Dave Walsh or Roy Yokelson or wherever else you're going and getting your demos produced. And so you do have to be able to compete against that. And people are going to make decisions about you based on the quality of your demo, right? If you're driving traffic to your website from a marketing standpoint, and you're hoping that you're going to generate some voiceover opportunities for yourself that way, people are going to judge you based on that demo, because that is the first impression. That is the proof that you can or can't do what you say you can or can't do. And so I would definitely be prioritizing at this point to get the demo updated if it needs to be, because it is your number one marketing tool. Cliff Zellman, I believe, is the one that says your demo is a promise. And the promise is that whatever the demo says, whatever is in the demo is a reflection of what you can deliver. And so we want to make sure that we're making good promises, is basically what it comes down to. All right. Again, welcome to Free Advice Friday. If there is a voiceover question that you have that you would like to get answered, by all means, you can type that question into the comments, and I am happy to do my best to answer those questions for you. Anything business and marketing related, I'm here to help in any way that I can, and try to jump online every week to do this Free Advice Friday. All right, Tom says, my website is badly in need of a redesign. I'd like to save money by doing it myself. I do have some Dreamweaver skills, but not a ton. Any recommendations on good templates or design aids? So, Tom, a couple things to unpack there. First and foremost, if your demo is your number one marketing tool, your website is your number two marketing tool. And so people will judge you by your website. Right or wrong, we can argue that if you want, but it is what it is. It is the nature of the human being. We say never judge a book by its cover, but what do we all do? Ultimately, we judge books by their covers. And so if you have people coming to your website and your website is less than ideal, there are people that are going to make decisions about you based on that design. There are people that may make those decisions before they even listen to your demos. So if you've got really awesome demos on a really bad website, you could potentially be working against yourself. So speaking from a business standpoint, speaking as a VOpreneur, if this is your voiceover business, then I obviously am a big fan of being in a position to be able to invest in your business, right? It's like, I don't want to go to the doctor that got his medical degree at night school and bought his instruments from the dollar store. That makes me nervous, right? And so if you're going to be a doctor, you've got to have legitimate education and legitimate tools. And I think that when you're starting any business, it's the same way. So ideally, I want to find money in the budget somewhere to be able to invest in a professional website, because I know that investment in the website is going to pay for itself. Every time I send a marketing email and put somebody to my website, I know that investment in my website is going to pay for itself. On the flip side, if I'm spending a lot of time sending marketing emails and driving traffic to my website and my website is bad, I'm not accomplishing anything. And so did I save money? Yes. But am I making money? No. And so I always want to make the best investment possible. And the best investment possible for me is an investment that is going to produce a return. And I do think that spending the money on a professional website is something that will produce a return relatively quickly. Again, like I said before with demos, you're competing against J. Michael Collins and his website. You're competing against Joe Cipriano and his website. You're competing against Anne Ganguza and her website. You're competing against, name the voice actor, Tara Strong and her website. You're competing against, again, name the voice actor, right? This is your competition level. And so if your website is not up to par with some of these other people, you're losing before you even start, is really what it comes down to. And I know that that's easy to say, especially when there's no money in the budget for it. So first part of the answer to that question is try to find a way to make the best investment possible, knowing that is an investment that is going to pay for itself. And like the other side of that coin is, if you spent $2,000 to get really amazing demos and then you're putting them up on a self-designed website that just doesn't hold up against other professional voice actors, not only are you not going to produce a return off of the time that you've put into your website, but you're not going to produce a return off of your demos either. And so spending $500 or $1,000 to get a professionally designed website means that your demos are probably going to start making money for you more quickly as well. Now, on to the second part. I do think that there are ways that you can get a clean and professional looking website for a relatively low investment until you are in a place where you are able to hire somebody like Joe and Karen from Voice Actor Websites, as an example. So for a number of years, I used WordPress Actually, my website is still built on the WordPress platform. So the WordPress platform is free. The WordPress platform is relatively user-friendly and easy, particularly if you're somebody that has a background in web design, or if you've got Dreamweaver skills. I would think WordPress would probably be pretty easy for you to pick up. So then you could go to a website like themeforest.net. Let me just copy themeforest.net. So this is what I did for a number of years. You go to a website like themeforest.net, and for $50 or $60, you could purchase a premium WordPress theme that you could then apply to your website, which is going to give you a much cleaner, much more professional looking website that you can work with until such a time as you're available to, or the funds are available to be able to upgrade. So, Tom, hopefully that answers your question. I know that's probably a long roundabout way, but I mean, I want to give you good advice. I want to give you legitimate advice. I do think that, and I mean, I say this when I sell my voiceover marketing playbook course. You got to have professional training, professional demos, professional home studio, and you got to have a great website. And if you don't have all of those pieces of the puzzle in play, it doesn't matter how good my voiceover marketing playbook course is. You're facing an uphill climb without all of those pieces in play. So I definitely think if your demos are your number one marketing tool, your website is your number two marketing tool, and you want your website to be amazing. All right. Again, welcome to Free Advice Friday. If you've got a question that you would like to get answered, type it into the comments, and I am keeping an eye on those comments, and I will be answering questions as they pop up on my screen. AJB says, follow up. Should I only have demos that are professionally produced, or is self-produced okay? Ooh, that is a very, very, very wide open question. Going back to everything that I've just been saying about websites, if you're starting a legitimate business and you want to make the maximum amount of money possible in this business, then you want to make sure that you are investing in the best tools and equipment in order to help you succeed in business. And so I am always going to tell you that your best investment is going to be professional demos. There are a lot of things that a professional demo producer brings to the table that the vast majority of us cannot bring to the table because we're not professional producers. It comes in their ability to write copy, to stay on trend with what is going on in a particular genre, to do amazing mixing and mastering and production, to know what agents are looking for, to understand what buyers want to hear, and bringing all of those components together, along with their ability to direct you to get the best possible read out of you. And so this is all why, I mean, and 100 other reasons as well. But these are some of the main reasons why I think that investing in professional demos has always got to be your first choice. Whenever possible, always invest in professional demos, because I believe that professional demos are always going to be able to produce results. Now, that said, there are some people who have incredible production skills. There are some people who are engineers or who work as producers. And if you're one of those people and you have the ability to do all of the things that I just talked about, could you get away with a self-produced demo on the interim? Maybe. I also think that there are some genres that would lend to self-production more than others. So, and again, you didn't hear this from me, forgetting that it's, out there on the internet for all the world to see. Could you self-produce a telephony demo? Sure. Could you self-produce a real estate narration demo? Sure. Could you self-produce an e-learning demo? Probably. Are they going to be as good as a professionally produced demo? Well, probably not, depending on your skill level, obviously. But could you do that on the interim and get away with it? Maybe. The other option is if you have booked a lot of voiceover work and you have a lot of samples of your voiceover work that you could draw from because your clients are willing to give you samples of your voiceover work, could you piece together demos from your work? Yes, that's another option. And that is something that I have done in the past. I've used projects to piece together demos, and those have been placeholders until such a time as I was able to get professionally produced demos done. So I don't know if that specifically answers your question, AJB. but that's kind of my thoughts on it. I would say you always want to be able to put your best foot forward. So whenever possible, I would still be trying to focus on getting professionally produced demos done. All right. Corey says, what can I do VO wise when starting out to get to the level to purchase the professional demo website, etc.? I mean, the easy way for me to explain this, and again, easier said than done, and I understand that, but you're starting a business. Or my assumption is you're starting a business. Not everybody does this. Some people do it because it's a hobby. Some people do it because it's a creative outlet. Some people start it because they're trying to start a business. Everybody's got different goals for what they're trying to do with their business. I understand all of that. But all of that aside, you are starting a business, and businesses require capital. You could not go out tomorrow and start up a McDonald's franchise with $0. Starting up a McDonald's franchise is starting up a business, and starting that business requires capital. If you decide tomorrow that you are going to become a house flipper and that you are going to go off in pursuit of your own show on HGTV, you cannot become a house flipper if you do not own tools. And so you realize that you have to have capital in order to get those tools. Voiceover is no different from any other business. There are certain capital expenditures that are required upfront in order to set you up for the best possible success, I believe. I think if you were to do a survey of, 100 professional working voice actors that are earning $50,000 a year or more in their voiceover business, I think that you would find a broad consensus that startup costs for a voiceover business are somewhere in the neighborhood, at minimum, of $10,000 to $15,000. Now, can you do it for less? Of course you can. Are there alternatives that are out there on the internet that allow you to do it for less? Yes, there is. But again, I guess it comes back to what your ultimate goal is and what you're ultimately trying to accomplish. But I think most voice actors need to be prepared to spend $10,000 to $15,000 in order to get the necessary tools and resources and equipment to build a legitimate voiceover business. I think that the people who are doing it for less can find success, but I think they're going to have to work exponentially harder in order to get it. So if you're willing to work exponentially harder, then, there's still an opportunity out there for you. But otherwise, look at, if I'm serious about this, can I look into a small business loan, for example? Is that something where I could sit down and put together a business plan and have a conversation with my bank and build out a case for a small business loan that would allow me to get a couple of demos produced, get some of the coaching done that I need to do, get my website up and running, get the good equipment that I need into my home studio, right? That is certainly an option. On the flip side of that, can you put yourself out there on Twitter or on Fiverr and look for people who want voiceover that's just good enough and that you can make 5, 10, 15, 20, $50 per voiceover doing and build your way up till you can get the right studio equipment, or you can get the demo, or whatever the resources are that you need? 100% you can do that, but that just lends itself to what I said earlier, which is if you're going to try to do it for cheap, you're just going to have to work exponentially harder, which means that there's going to have to be a hustle factor, right? I'm not a big fan of Fiverr. I've never hid that fact. Why would I want to do a job for, $5 or even $50 when I know that I should be getting paid $250 or $500? And so there's that side of it. And I'm not a big fan of that. But can you get a USB microphone and find a quiet place in your room and start recording voiceover jobs on Fiverr and use that to build up a bank account to ultimately advance your business forward? You can do it. You can do it. And that's where I said it's just that you're going to have to work exponentially harder to do it. So, Corey, I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but definitely, some of my thoughts on the issue. And interesting, Lila just posted, I started for less than 6 years ago, but I would say this year, my first year making 50,000 plus, I probably invested cumulatively 10 to 15K. And that's what I'm saying. Demos these days are running anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 bucks for a professionally produced demo, 2,000 to 2,500 bucks. Most coaches are charging anywhere from $150 to $250 an hour on average. Again, you'll find some for more, some for less, but on average. So you got a couple $1,000 for your demo. You might want 2 or 3 demos. There's $6,000. You got 150 to 200 bucks for coaching. You know, you're going to need what, 10, 15 hours of coaching before you're finally ready to get going. So there's a few grand. You know, it's going to cost you $1,000 to get your website up and running. You know, you might spend $1,000 or $1,500 on equipment by the time you get your interface and get a microphone and maybe get some treatment for your closet that you're going to record in, or you buy a George Whittam tri-booth or something like that. And so you see very quickly how all of these things start to add up, and 10 to 15K, that actually might be a low estimate nowadays, but it is a realistic number to set for yourself from a budgetary standpoint. Expect that. And again, you don't have to spend it all at once, right? You can get one demo and then use that demo to make money to get to the next demo. I'm just saying, ultimately, if you look back at your startup costs cumulatively, as Layla said, 10 to 15 is not out of the question. Brent says, I ended up using money from side gig 1 to finance side gig 2. It's hustle, man, right? That's the hustle factor. And that might be the way that you've got to do it. Short-term pain for long-term gain is what I talked about. When I was getting started in my business, I was plugging away at my business sometimes for 16 plus hours a day. I was at the time a single guy. So I didn't really have a lot of other commitments. So I didn't really have anything else that I needed to be doing or that I could be doing. And so I was able to just dig in and work my face off and build my business. And I was 4 years from about 15 grand year 1 to breaking 6 figures on year 4. But that was 4 years of 5, 6, 7 days a week, sometimes 16 hours a day, contacting 100 or 200 new people every single week and just working my face off. Not everybody wants to work that hard. If I was going back and doing it all over again, I probably wouldn't want to work that hard. But that was what I did at the time because it's what I thought that I needed to do to get to my goals. And so the biggest thing in all of this is that you treat it like a business. You absolutely have to treat it like a business, which is why one of the things that I always encourage voice actors with is spend some time studying entrepreneurship. Understand the basic fundamentals of what it means to run a business, because voice actors tend to operate as creatives. We tend to be creatives. So we operate from a different side of our brain from where a business owner would traditionally operate. And that's why some of this business stuff doesn't come naturally to a lot of voice actors. And it feels very complex. It feels very overwhelming. It can feel very frustrating. So the one workaround for that is study basic entrepreneurship. Listen to podcasts about entrepreneurship. Read books about entrepreneurship. You know, what a time to be alive, right? We can say, what a time to be alive, where you could go on the internet on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, and you can find all kinds of advice about entrepreneurship, and you can watch and consume that content for free. You can go onto Apple Podcasts and you could find 1,000 different podcasts this afternoon that teach entrepreneurship and marketing, and you consume those content or all of that content for free. You sit here on Free Advice Friday and you ask your questions and you can consume that content for free. You can go back through my archives on YouTube, all kinds of practical advice on the business and marketing side of voiceover. You can consume all that content for free. So part of it is just being willing to put in the time, right? Put in the time, put in the effort, consume the content, take in the information, make notes, come up with a plan, build a business. Always see yourself as a VOpreneur. I really do think that's a big part of it. You are not just a voice actor. You are a business owner as well. And when you understand that and you can learn how to be a business owner, I think that's where you truly unlock the earning potential of your actual voiceover business. It's actually cheaper to buy it right the first time. However, I couldn't afford it the all-in when I started. My initial setup was $600. I've upgraded almost every piece of equipment 3 times at least. And you know what? We've all been through that as well. And that's a really great point, right? Obviously, it's cheaper to do it the first time. If you go out and you spend $500 on a demo and it's a really crappy demo, and then eventually you got to get that demo redone and it costs you $2,000. Well, the $2,000 that you said you couldn't afford initially, you've just invested $2,500. My first voiceover microphone was an EV RE20, which is generally believed to be the worst voiceover microphone on the planet, probably next to a couple of USB microphones. But it's what I had. It's what I could afford. I didn't know any better. I've got a Neumann U87 in my booth now, but I had to work up to that. And so that's another valid point, right? Sometimes you can bootstrap this. I built my own website with WordPress and a premium theme from themeforest.net. And I did that for a number of years and it looked good, but I did that until I was in a position where I could make the investment with Joe and Karen from Voice Actor Websites. I did not start out with a Sennheiser 416 and a U87 in my booth. I worked my way up to that. Heck, I didn't even start out with a booth. I was recording in a spare bedroom. And it wasn't until 2017, 2018, when I finally built my home studio that I have now. So that was, I went full time in 2012. So, I mean, I worked for 5 or 6 years in really, really less than ideal circumstances from a studio standpoint until I was in a position financially to be able to build my booth. So there are definitely places where you can bootstrap while you're working your way up. But I do think that your demos need to be great, your website needs to be great, and your sound needs to be great. You do not need a U87 to get great sound, by the way. You can get great sound spending a couple $100 on a microphone and just treating a space properly so that you've got the acoustics that you need. And so that's part of it too, right? Is looking for where are there areas where I can save and bootstrap so that I can make bigger investments in some of the other more important areas. You know, don't buy the U87 out of the gate. Buy the $300 or $400 microphone. Take the difference that you saved, invest that back into a demo, as an example. Can't get a professionally produced website right out of the gate for $1,000 or $1,500. Spend $50 on a premium WordPress theme. You know, learn how to do it, get it done, or you know, hire somebody off Upwork to get it set up for you. And maybe your all-in costs end up being $250, right? But now for the $250 all-in cost, and I don't know, I'm just throwing numbers out, but I'm just saying, if you found somebody on Upwork that could get it set up for you, and you found a premium theme that you like for $50, then maybe for $250, you could have a really nice, clean, professional-looking website online, and that works good enough until such a time as you can afford the $1,000 or $1,500 website. But that's that sort of stuff, that thinking. That's the VOpreneur mindset, right? That's the entrepreneurial mindset that you have to get into. And that's why I think it's so important to study entrepreneurship when you're getting started out. All right, guys, I hate to do this, but I got to cut off early today. I do have a very important mission that I have to accomplish for my wife this afternoon. I've got to go on a bit of a road trip to pick some stuff up. And so I need to jump out of the office early today. So I'm going to have to wrap Free Advice Friday up early. But let me take a look at my calendar. I do have Free Advice Friday slated in my calendar. I do have a time slot for it for next week. So I think that we should be back next Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern. And hopefully I can stick around a little bit longer. But as always, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for watching the YouTube videos. Thank you for listening to the Everyday VOpreneur podcast and for everything that you do to support me. And I will continue to do my best to give you the advice that you need, the actionable, practical business and marketing advice that you need to grow your voiceover business. Whatever you guys are doing this weekend, have fun, stay safe. And as always, you know, go find some leads.